How you doing, folks? This is another fun-filled episode of The Other Side of the Ropes. And of course, I am your humble host. Call it how you want to. If you don't know me by now, you will never, ever, ever know me. I am none other than Shaka, aka Black Magic on some circles, if not half of the ones I'm in. But anyway, um, if you guys noticed, for the past couple of weeks, I've been touching on this whole thing about conditioning and working out and all that good stuff. It's a nice little debate. And you know, it's funny. I mean, some people might get mad at me when I tell them this because, they're like, oh, yeah, I'm going to the gym and all that. Yeah, but what exactly are you doing? I mean, and I've said this, I had a little debate with one of my buddies on Facebook before. Yeah, I'm about to out you, John. Yeah, I'm doing this. Call me a bastard all you want, but I'm outing you. And he's like, yeah, we're doing squats, this, that, and the third. Like, dude, you forgot one small thing. You forgot who you're talking to. I mean, we boys and all that, but apparently what I did about 6 months ago must have passed through everybody's brain or something like that. Now, one of the things that I did is back in April, the one time I did venture out of Philadelphia, it was to make a bit of a pilgrimage for like about 2.5, 3 days down to Florida, Boca Raton. And Boca Raton is not exactly, how can I put this? It's not exactly a low-key area. I put it like that. Um, Boca Raton is the home of what's known as the Institute of Human Performance, or the IHP. And the people who normally train there are in some circles, more specifically MMA, um, is known by some people within those circles as America's top team. Well, that's where I got certified as an MMA strength and conditioning coach. Now, this may seem sudden, but quite the contrary. My second training Bible for this particular thing, I turned around and grabbed about 3 years ago when I started the training, and I used it up until maybe the last 2 years, last 2 weeks before my fight in the asylum, which was almost 2 years and almost half a month ago. But and JC Santana, the coach there, who gave out the certifications, his whole thing was, and I saw him. If you go to Ultimate MMA magazine, used to be Ultimate Grappling. That's where I got his book. He has certain, like, if you go like the training section in the back of the magazine, you'll see some of the stuff that he actually endorses. And he's a guy that brought about one of the things for, functional training, sport specific training. If you get his book, it's called The Strength and Conditioning for the Modern Gladiator. And it kind of breaks down, like, a 2 month long fight camp, even 2 months notice. And the guys I trained with, unfortunately, who didn't really know their asses from a hole in the ground, sorry, there it is, pretty much that cost me the match. What saved my ass was the conditioning involved that I took initially before that. And what he basically harped upon is the fact that while MMA may be hitting mainstream here in the States, it's only 18 years old, because UFC started back in 93 in LA. And Coach Santana actually stressed upon a thing. He had a newsletter, and then he actually posted it online on Facebook 2 days ago. And he aptly named it, "What the hell is going on in MMA?" The whole thing was, he was talking about the guys coming in, they're interviewing, they got black eyes and all that because they're training harder than they should. They're overtraining. I can vouch for that. They got coaches calling him saying, well, I got a fighter, he's like doing this, and have too many sessions. And he's like, send him home. Best thing you can do is give him a nap because he's damaged goods. I can relate to that too. And wrestling, what's this got to do with wrestling? It's got a lot to do with wrestling. Because one thing I notice is, outside of maybe doing Hindu squats and this, that, and the third, our training sucks. This is what I'm trying to get at. It sucks. You can sit up there and do all the curls and the bench presses and the squats all day long, but it has nothing to do with what we're doing in the ring. I'm not going to sit up there and squat a guy. The object of wrestling, guys, I don't give a crap. I don't give a rat's ass what anybody says. I'm probably going to piss a few people off, but you know what? Those are the people who need to hear this, okay? You guys need to listen up. Shut your fucking mouths. Get your heads out your asses. Check your egos at the door and listen up. Okay? While I mention MMA, alright, forget about that for a second. I said this before. Technique, and gas in the tank. This has nothing to do with being in ring shape. There's no such thing as ring shape. It's called you're either conditioned or you're not. You have gas in the tank or you don't, which is the difference between that Cadillac body I mentioned and having Volkswagen conditioning, which means you look good up until the first 3 to 5 minutes into the match. Now you're gasping for air. MMA came from us. We are the roots. Y'all should be catching up on this stuff, and y'all wondering why things are going to where they're going, because the mindsets from about a decade ago is not the same as it is now. Now, watching guys watching a whole thing with the Vengeance pay-per-view, and they're wondering about this, that, and the third. Here's the deal, guys. Listen. They're reaching out to the kids who kind of really don't give a crap. They just have a thing for slapstick violence, and that's what they go by. While the rest of us are sitting up there picking away and deconstructing what's going on, look, they're going to still get the money. Anybody dumb enough to cough up the money for the pay-per-view, look, they're still getting paid. While we're sitting there, oh, so-and-so, dude, stop it. That's not helping the indies whatsoever. Even if you try to replicate it, you can't. You don't have the road schedule. You don't have the means. Your best bet, disassociate from the crap that's on television, cable or otherwise. Disassociate the crap from mainstream. Even TNA for a second. This is what I did. I totally disengaged myself from that about 5 years ago, which is why I started doing what I did 3 years ago. People can get on me all they want, but this is how it goes down. Okay? Because what you guys forget is what made this business what it wasn't the shit you see on now. Is what came before that up until about 15 years ago when you still had guys with legitimate pedigrees. Ain't too many guys in there now. That's an endangered species. They're here on the independents, and they're not even on the tiers that we are. And even if they are, they're getting the money we should be getting. That really doesn't have any bearing on the talent per se, although in the matter of speaking, it should if people start speaking up a little bit more. But that's on the promoters, which really aren't really promoters, because not the average promoter that's out there now are not the most business-minded individuals on the face of the earth. Otherwise, they will not be running on a shoestring budget. Just food for thought. Now, going back to the conditioning, JC Santana, Coach Santana had this thing of, okay, he's seen class boxing camps where they're not sparring too hard, they're not killing themselves, and they go out, you know, the fighters aren't gasping for air, they're not hyperventilating. And I don't mean hyperventilating because of stage fright, because they're over-conditioned. They're not even over-conditioned, they're overtrained. Train the technique, train the movement. Don't overtrain everything else. You don't need to go balls to the wall. I've been there. We all been there, and we figured, oh, hazard's a trade. No. It's called not training safe, because believe it or not, even trainers have egos. They do. It's like, it's either my way or the highway. We're going to do it like this. Yeah, and this cost people many a fight. It has. But I can actually go ahead and expand on that, but it's probably going to take longer than that. So that's why I'm kind of breaking this up informally in pieces. So there might be a part 4 to this. And there has been a bit of a rant to this. So I'm just going to switch on ahead and just, give a shout out to my people. Even John, I know he's been going through his thing. I'm talking about my man, Mr. Logan, because we got to do Top Rope Radio on Sunday night, 11 o'clock Eastern Time, and 8 o'clock Western, as in Pacific time. So shout out to 38 Proof, Jesse, Johnny, Bruce, and of course Grizzly over in Delaware. We got back out west, Sickness in Arizona. We got Liz Savage doing a whole Occupy LA, and we got Dawn Holly out in Oregon. To the MCW Crew Maximum Championship Wrestling, not to be confused with Maryland Championship Wrestling. Wherever you guys may be, and we're scattered a little bit. We talking about Massive Mike. We talking about Chuck the Referee, E.L. Stanley, D-Line, Eric Chappell down in Maryland, Trina Stratus, and Brandon Mercury. Yeah, I didn't forget about you guys. To my Mid-Atlantic Wrestling Alliance crew over in based out of Jersey, to Risky Business Inc. I'm talking about none other than Risky Business himself, Ronnie Reigns, my man Dave Patera, Andy Header, of course Ed House, and Twiggy Ramirez, and let's throw in a little bit of Cremator, and of course, who can forget Biggie Biggs. Going upstate to PA, the Tamaqua crew, and going down for a second, my boy Sean Fury that brought me up there to Elite Generation Wrestling, Lucifer Grimm, my boys up in upstate New York, Junior White, and of course my little brother, the 212 aspect of the 215 Empire. I'm talking about none other than Xavier Fate. Brings us over to the crew over in Haddonfield, or should I say Haddonfield Center over in Pennsauken. Of course, I'm talking about Doc Diamond, and of course Devastation University, and the rest of the 215 Empire, the Last Emperor, Ron, Mac Daddy Star, and of course the Emperor Simply Divine, Blackie, best cruiserweight around on the East Coast, and Tyreno. Yeah, I didn't forget y'all. To my boys over in the UK, we're talking about Tommy Teetotaler Stevens, PT Player, of course, my surrogates, Drewy and Woo, and Vicky and Jim, and of course, the Milkshake over in Northampton I'm talking about. That's right, I put you over, and I couldn't forget about these singing dads. Of course, over to my boys over in Belgium, Robin, Laurie, Homeless, Jack, Dorax, Gangrene, Rob Raw, Bernard Van Damme, and no, I'm not talking about the doggone protein shakes again, Bernard. You get me with that every time, brother. And of course, Wendy, Enderdad. Over to my boys over in Holland, of course, the Sumerians Death Squad, who's actually Tommy and his boy, they're actually raising hell over in Kuroko and Hall over this past weekend over in Japan. Big ups, guys. Rico Bushido, Giannis Destructo, Andy Ethan Patterson, and of course, we can't forget, let's see, Emil Satochi, and to my boys, V Gates. To my homies over in Deutschland, of course, talking about my bro, the House of Jacks, Susie, Craig BC, Crazy Sexy Mike, and his brother Ahmed Chair. Of course, over I forgot Zeres Von Crow. Didn't forget about you, bro. Trust me, I didn't. To my people over in Dresden, Susie, Katrine, Sandra, and Grossenheim, Melly, Kathy, Maddie, Minatakta, Savannah. Of course, let's see. Andrea Bobbage and Top Catch. Marcel and Pro Wrestling Fighters. The crew over in Lubeck and Hamburg for AMW. Let me see. We can't forget about, of course, my man, Rick, the Voice, Valentine. Mr. Andy, not Andy Reid. Mr. Doc Hollywood Reed. And, of course, my boys, let's see, MC Logan. Sorry, I didn't forget about you, man. Didn't forget about you. And, of course, let's see. Over to Pro Wrestling Eve. We're talking about, yes, none other than Alpha Female, Mina, and Yini Sheridan. Ich liebe vermische dich alles. On that note, I'm out. Like I said, stay tuned later on Sunday, 11 o'clock Eastern Time, 8 o'clock Pacific. We're talking about Top Rope Radio. And stay tuned next week for another fun-filled episode of, you guessed it, Back to Me, The Other Side of the Ropes. And yeah, it might be a part 4. On that case, incense. Peace.